In the flowing rivers of Monaco 1984, Ayrton Senna, the Firebird from P13, was knocking down the champions, burning up the tarmac in metaphysical speed. But while Ayrton's blazing adrenaline was catching Alain Prost 3 seconds per lap, there was another Firebird speeding even faster, preying on Ayrton Senna.
Stefan Bellof has come up from 20th to 10th position in 3 laps, an incredible performance.
This Firebird was Stefan Bellof. You see, I told you we were going to get to Bellof. He was just going so fast, we need to get some turbos to keep up. Prost is leading since Mansell crashed. Lauda has just been passed by Senna. Behind is René Arnoux and Keiichi Rosberg. Stefan Bellof is breathing down Keiichi Rosberg's neck. Going through the slowest hairpin, Stefan is trying to rotate the car, not just let it roll on full lock, waiting it out. He slides out an exit but stays with Rosberg. Down the hill, Stefan drifts on entry to floor it earlier into the tunnel they're heading. Stefan needs all the exit traction he can get, having an engine that only puts out under 500 horsepower. But those are naturally aspirated horses. The field is bunching up into racecar, getting pushed by Bellof. Exiting the last corner, now they're heading onto the straight. Bellof's close is shattered by the power of Williams. You can't make a move there. Up Zandvoort, Bellof is still on him, nothing changed. Keiichi is pushing all he can without aquaplaning off. Going through the tunnel, it's a high-speed bend. Stefan is flooring it. He takes Rosberg on exit. As the eye-piercing burst of light shines as they're exiting the tunnel, Rosberg sees that he's owned by Bellof on the fast section. In a turtle, masochism is doubt. Stefan Bellof from P20 is now in P5. Ayrton Senna is in second, flying to catch Alain Prost. The gap that was once 30 seconds now closes to 15. Stefan sliding down Mirabel, letting gravity pull him to Portier. Through Casino Square, Stefan slides around the late apex to open up the right-hander. Time Stefan was sliding inefficiently, losing half a tenth and gaining 2 tenths in his demand to floor the throttle. Anything less is not good enough. It is Bellof's and his turtle's only desire. So from often overcooking it into a slide in impatience, Stefan found a way to open up the right-hander by sliding the rear the inefficient way he does. Pursuing the balance it takes to floor it through the waterfalling corners of Monaco, Stefan tuned in his nerves and soul to feel the turtle until he found Konshon's zone of absolute connection. Man and machine as one. They lick the apex. Flooring it down in rage, little twitch on a straight heading toward Mirabel. In a little more than a single lap, Stefan Bellof closes a 3-second gap to René Arnoux and the Ferrari. Niki Lauda, trying to keep up with Ayrton Senna, spins out. Around the swimming pool, Bellof is on Arnoux' ass, licking the entire apex, eating the curb. Into Zandvoort they go. Bellof is like Arnoux' train trailer. Bellof annoyed, only sticking behind because on the straight he couldn't take him. Bellof is looking for an opening and he doesn't have much patience. For this lap, Stefan stays glued on Rennie. If you didn't know, Zandvoort is one of the hardest corners of all the Formula 1 tracks. Zero margin for error, only enough room for one thing, pure connection. The outside line is super narrow as the wall swells, blocking you from opening up the corner, entering from wide there's no such thing. So the corner is sharper than it looks. And immediately you're greeted with the uphill exit, most grueling traction zone. Bellof, annoyed behind Arnoux, tries to switch back. He's flooring it. Holy rotation. He practically ricocheted to the inside. That was so sharp. Stefan Bellof handled the turtle like it was one of his limbs, while other drivers are lagging to rotate through the raining Monaco. Well, yeah, the turtle was like one of his limbs because it is. This is the revelation of Konshin. They are as one. Bellof's attack is relentless. No matter what line he takes, narrow or wide, he stays attached to René Arnoux like a hookworm. It's inevitable. We can do the countdown. Down the inside goes Bellof. Arnoux serves the craziest narrow line to rotate. Stefan says that's your mom's line. René is owned. Stefan Bellof's rotation aligned perfectly in the geometry of Monaco and René Arnoux. By the degree, the millisecond and the millimeter. When Alain Prost was handed that line by Ayrton Senna, he got cognitive lock understeering off like Stephen Hawking. Niki Lauda making a move at Hotel Hairpin nearly understeered into the wall. His car was cold, understeering. There was no rotation, it was just full lock. Stefan's turtle was nimble and light with no turbos attached. but it didn't have no inner wheel braking or active suspension or 25 ground effect. It was a back alley team car just like Ayrton Senna's Tolman. There was nothing dominant about the Tyrrell. Ayrton Senna in second has brought the gap to Prost down to 6 seconds. Accountant Prost waves his hands to stop the race. He doesn't want Senna and Bellof to destroy him. Let's go deeper, let's break it all down. Let's go into the detail of how Stefan Bellof could perfectly rotate his Tyrrell in the geometry of Monaco and René. To learn the science of Konshin, we need to start where it isn't. Lando Norris wants to get past Oscar Piastri. He knows the McLaren rotates when you yank, so Lando yanks it in and expects it to rotate the rest of the way into Max, into Oscar. Lando knows a bit of the theory of what makes this McLaren turn. If I yank, then she'll make the corner. So he uses this trick on her and then expects the McLaren to rotate the rest of the way. After he yanks, he's not paying attention to the car. Lando is dumb to the voice of his car. He can't feel her movements, her intentions, and her emotion. For this corner, it was fine to just use turning and lever because there's not much corner and... No, never mind, that was dismal. Come to the hairpin and then there's a problem. It's just understeer. Lando's div charging from yanking is very aggressive. So the McLaren responds aggressively with high rotation in the rear end. He complains the rear end is too twitchy when he is the one who's not feeling the difference in speed that the rear wheels have with the differential charging he just induced. The cars of the 90s were very loose cars. Suspension, drivetrain, chassis, it was all a lot less precise. There were no electronic diffs and aero parts that handled the car through every angle of yaw. The drivers had to be more precise balancing the car. Overspun weight from over yanking would create a gap of control. Ayrton Senna honed the ability to set and maintain the perfect centrifugal current of inertia, so precise to the mere gram of gravitational force. Momentum is curved going in the direction he's rotating. Wheel speed ratio of the rear wheels absolutely perfect to the meter per hour. In aggressive driving, he made his car look as smooth as modern F1 cars. Hand him the 2025 McLaren that is a million times more precise than the old 80s and 90s cars. Ayrton Senna will be over 2 seconds faster than Lando per qualifying session. Cause somehow Lando manages to go back in time, making his McLaren as unstable as a 90s car driven by Michael Andretti. For all the kids who don't know Michael Andretti, he's like Latifi. Over aggressive yanking for the corner angle, the weight swings into the corner, the diff is overcharged, he doesn't use the diff, it oversteers, then it understeers because the weight springs back. Now he's stressing the front end to turn the car from his dismal understeer. Lando honestly has some nerve to have such latent reaction to his car stepping out on him when he doesn't balance the turning angle with the rear wheel speed ratio. Look at the pendulum effect this McLaren has in Lando's hands. Then he wants to blame the car for overreacting when he's not listening to the car! Somehow in the masterpiece of McLaren's 2025 Formula 1 car, Lando is finding the instability of 1990 cars. The car just starts understeering and then he throws his toys out of the car. We need to fix the car, it's not turning. She's perfect, you little bitch. Come on dude, learn to listen to your car. You're not gonna get anywhere being spoiled. All of us and everyone on the grid understands that Oscar and Max outdrove you in your own championship almost every single weekend. Real speed is the only way to true achievement in racing. I feel I need to explain something with my hands. Feel, we've been talking about what it is and who Lando Norris is on the other hand. But there are different levels of feel and connection a driver has to his race car. Nobuteru Taniguchi feels the car, Max Verstappen feels the car, you tell me who has better feel. The first stage of feel is a little better than Pando Porris. Approaching a corner, during braking, coming up to the corner, the rate of how often the driver feels the car's weight, suspension compression, how the car's behaving, that rate is so low that during braking they hardly get any meaningful data. They use a certain technique on entry. So let me throw the car in like this. And then if the car doesn't like it, they get that impression late in mid-corner and, oh, I've screwed up the whole corner. Now I'm done. I have to wait for the next corner. From what they felt in the previous corner, they get an idea of what to do in the next corner. They do that. Maybe now they've gotten the corner right, but they've lost 0.4 of a second in the last corner where they were not driving properly. They are technically feeling the car, but the rate that they feel the car throughout the corner is so bad, so latent. A driver with a richer, higher frequency of feel will be able to feel more in a corner what the car wants, how is it reacting to the inputs he's giving, what's the suspension doing, what's the diff doing, what is the rotation energy, where's the direction of the momentum swinging, how aggressive is it swinging, is it rebounding back to straight and I have to yank it in again. Throughout the corner he's feeling, getting this data better at a higher frequency, at a higher rate, and he's acting on what he's feeling. Lando does have some feel when he's driving at his best, but it is so low, it's such a low frequency, so poor. It's at the first stage, he's practically just feeling what happens after he's already turned in. That's why he needs the car to do all the rotation stably for him, while he can only turn in. He hates Oscar's McLaren that only works with constant feel, connection, demanding precisely balanced rotation with a psychopathic differential that constantly wants to be over-energized, balanced by the hands of a surgeon holding the wheel, slightly delaying turning timing to maintain a slight overcharge of rotational energy. Pitch and roll is perfect for most efficient downforce. So to not crash, Lando uses a V-line, braking hard, going to the apex, then quickly turning around when he's at 2 km per hour, accelerating out. Still want to know why he was a hazard at Barcelona? Whenever Lando Norris wants to make a move into a tight, complex corner, he hits cognitive lock in the fear that just turning won't be enough to rotate the car on his side of the track. In Monaco, Lando's strategy is usually to paint the town orange with his own car paint, crashing. But it looks like he's in the zone. His field rate is seeming slightly better. The car's doing what he wants it to do. Nearly took off his wheel again, but let's forget about that. I'm going to say it's skill, not luck. The one time Oscar is caught off guard with Konshin lag, guess who's beaten for Monaco qualifying? The stopwatch don't care about your Konshin reputation. It only cares about how you feel in the car now. So Lando takes pole, Charlie second, and Lando's defensive strategy is to scare Charles. At the end of the day, it was only Oscar's fault that Lando was on pole. Charles's driving was worth a full second faster than Lando, but he's not in the McLaren. So maybe Lando just needs Alan Prost Williams FW15. This axial suspension is naturally stable and planted in the rear. Inner wheel braking to rotate the car when you understeer. No, this will so not work. Look what Senna did to Prost when Prost was in the Williams. At Tamba fucking Relo! Nothing will fix what you cannot Konshin. That's like asking AI to solve the problems in your relationship. If it works, well, guess what? Your girlfriend has just fell in love with ChatGPT, not you. Come on, dude. I get very annoyed by you. It seems like I hate you, but I don't. No, don't pull that face. That spastic smile, I'll break your face. Get the point. Fine Konshin, Lando. We are racing in Zandvoort. Max Verstappen makes the launch into the first corner. He's past Lando, challenging Oscar Piastri. He can't take it around the outside. A little impatient on the throttle. Lando sees his grave image of defeat, even though he is ahead of Verstappen. Lando feels the hot air down his neck. Cognitive lock. He's just clinging to the inside in fear of understeer. Max Verstappen is freebirding all the way around the outside, sliding on the dust of Zandvoort, taking the haunted inside line of corner 3. Perfect rotation, speeding his Red Bull tractor around the rocket ships from Britain. Konshin on display. There's a reason the Netherlands and Austria is painted in radiative orange. The only people that are not just here to watch, they are an army. In their witness of true speed, they find their adrenaline, as we're all fighters for the same thing. A Victoria. Osama bin Russell witnessed the trend Pando Porris started, so he also wanted a time machine. He can't drive a hyper-rotative car like Kimi. Charles Leclerc, looking to make a move, is disgusted by the behavior of the Mercedes he sees. Just one straight and then you're over. He falls back behind, they both have DRS down the straight. Charles Leclerc is on Osama bin Russell. Osama closes the gap. Charles opens the gap, building up rotation current. Charles yanks it in from the outside, short-circuiting hyper-rotational energy into the rear diff, using big angle throttle steering through the dirt. Charles finds the grip to rotate. Nudge Russell, get out the way. You have no business being at the sanctuary of rotation, at the pinnacle of motorsports. This is Konshin frequency. Charles' field frequency so high, he out-rotated Osama bin Russell using the dirt. Into the first corner, Russ wants to try Charles on the outside, but he's cold. He can't imagine rotating at that speed. Oscar Piastri is free birding at a frequency so high. Oscar and the McLaren are still. He's controlled the race perfectly without a single fault under multiple safety cars. Through the chicane, we see Konshin is not just fast, it is beautiful. A magical flow of indescribable harmony. But we see the biggest revelation when the masters of Konshin are versing each other. Like the true sensation of driving an Alfa Romeo, pushing the limits at the same frequency. What looked like magic in the past is now exposed as shortcomings of imperfect Konshin. Our fill rate is too low, laughing at the accountants not being able to handle their own power. Now driving at a frequency so high the accountants can't comprehend. We are met with the same oversteer. It is the exposing that metaphysicians of speed love. The drug we can't live without, because pushing limits is who we are. In the spirit of masochism, we dwell in our place of pain and weakness until making it into our biggest strength, surpassing limits and reaching new levels, beating the man you are obsessed with whose name was so-called invincible. After knocking 7 barrels of shite out of each other, it's nothing, it's just an incident. The biggest rivals will give us the biggest headaches, but be our bestest friends. Cause the words will be said, no one could expose me like that. Still need to know how Charles is Max's wife? It's an obsessive rivalry. Keiichi Tsuchiya drove the adrenaline out of his very own Toyota Corolla AE86. I know you'd be like, oh my word, is he comparing Keiichi Tsuchiya to a Formula? Yes, I am comparing Keiichi Tsuchiya to a Formula 1 driver. Getting closer to his car, Keiichi felt the sheer attitude of his car through every opening of the throttle. What she really loves is throttle rotation. Cause Keiichi found the true connection with his car in sheer feel. And he felt the orgasm she had when he floors the throttle. And so through all of that, the 86 engineered Keiichi Tsuchiya's shuffle steering technique, yanking to high angle until there's a little bit of scrubbing on the front tires, and he floors the throttle. The throttle on high angle steering, as we know, uses the outside rear wheel to rotate. The scrubbing of the front tires enhances the rotation as they slow the front end down with a sliding friction. So when Keiichi opens the throttle, he lifts up the wheel speed ratio more aggressively with accelerating rear wheels pushing against the decelerating fronts, turning the scrub into a drift angle, using the throttle to rotate, the way his 86 loves. And so he thrashes a GTR on Gunsai Toge. He thrashes a modern 86, gets into his own Honda NSX-R, the one that he put back the air conditioning and the stereo from the normal NSX, so it weighs a little more than the standard NSX-R. The philosophy and sophistication of the NSX-R, it's not completely different from the 86. They're both rear-wheel drive, they both love throttle rotation. The 86's engine and gearbox are nearly within the wheelbase. The NSX-R's engine and gearbox are within the wheelbase. Keiichi balances the center of rotation to mid-rear where the NSX loves. Keiichi Tsuchiya is holding back a Ferrari 458. Keiichi sends the modern NSX into the 4th dimension. How? Why is he so fast? Because Konshin. It's connection. It's feel. What produces real speed. Keiichi and his NSX hold off a racing stripped down focused RS D360, GT3 RS, GT2 RS and GTR.
You know what? If we were in prison, you guys would be like my bitches.
And so Keiichi's technique became instinctive, and this was the problem. Hand Keiichi the keys of the Aria Meme RX-7, a car that is front mid-engine but has a totally different philosophy of driving. Keiichi finds Konshin and feels her desire of inertia control. She don't like shuffle steering. She wants her inertia to be controlled in a centrifugal current. That means yank the wheel. This would be Oscar's type of car if you raced in a Toge. When the momentum is bent, going in the direction the car is rotating, and the rear starts slipping, the rear wheels point to the inside trying to get to the apex first, as the front's also trying to get to the apex first. And so in this battle of the front and rear wheels trying to get to the apex first during rotation, the turning circle is shortened. But now the rain is starting to come down. The Honda S2000 AP1 of Jay's Racing enters the chat, and she chooses violence. There's a youngster driving the S2000. Although the RX-7 did get a power upgrade, a little more aero, a few tweaks here and there. When I say a few tweaks here and there, this is the Aria Meme RX-7 nearly perfected. Will Keiichi be able to use this power as a weapon, or will it be his weakness? Battle is on. The pressure of the opponents and the conditions put Keiichi into instinct mode. And this is where it all falls apart. There's connection lag. No. Keiichi and the RX-7 are totally out of signal. Remember I mentioned Keiichi's instinct was trained by the 86. Driving the RX-7 now on instinct, Keiichi starts shuffle steering. The RX-7 is pissed, so now all Keiichi gets from her is cold hands. She's understeering, then snap oversteering. Then Keiichi's stressing the car trying to put the power down when he didn't carry momentum. Because he couldn't carry the momentum, because the car was not going to corner that fast. When he shuffle steering, Keiichi and the RX-7 are sent into the 4th dimension by Daiki and the S2000. As you can imagine, I was not going to let this slide. That's my RX-7. So I hopped in the simulator when the wheel was still working. Went to Gunsai Togo with the exact same RX-7 in slightly worse conditions. And I beat Keiichi's time by 4 seconds! Keiichi's instinct was practically built around his 8.6. Keiichi gets into a Porsche 911 997 GT2, the GOAT. Well, specifically the RS is the GOAT. Same thing, man. A Porsche 911 is the last car on earth that wants its wheel speed ratio lifted. The engine is in the rear, not within the wheelbase. It's not asking you to spin around something in the inside of the wheelbase where the front goes in and the rear goes out. So the 911 is practically the furthest thing from Keiichi's 8.6. Keiichi by himself wants to set a lap time in the Porsche. Pressure's down, but he needs to be fast. For the coming corner, rotation depends heavily on braking. He's on the brakes, trails off fast, perfectly timed relative to his yank in. The rear engine has a similar effect of an energized rear diff. He turns in full, perfect, no zero counter steer nonsense. Perfectly balanced center of rotation revolving around the rear end. Accelerate coast yank into full angle. Gunsai Toge in a more modern Porsche. This lack of communication between driver and car is like a stroke. Keiichi rates the Cayman better than the 911. Mr. Keiichi Tsuchiya. The Porsche 911 is one of the most precise Toge weapons of all time. The problem is not that Mr. Keiichi Tsuchiya's instinct is only tuned around the 8.6. The problem is not that his instinct is not tuned around more cars. The problem is that Keiichi's instinct is merely tuned around a car, not primarily tuned to feel. From babyhood we observe the driving of the big guys and gals. And from small it is known and ingrained in us that the primary input for turning is the steering wheel. But if you go too fast, you can't turn as sharp. We know this. But a driver overcooking a corner would oftentimes out of panic turn to full lock hoping the car will turn. Try not to go off the track. This is an absolutely wrongly trained instinct. Thinking because of your bad braking now you're understeering, so more understeer will help. Funny enough, they probably don't actually think this. But it's in their instinct because the steering wheel turns the car. Get off the damn track. More advanced drivers exercise the trick of staying calm, braking it out, not turning, and then you turn when you have enough grip. But they are just straight line braking till they're really slow enough to turn in. The drivers who truly feel will be able to feel when they have just enough grip relative to the inertia of their car to rotate. Max Verstappen does it worse. He completely outbrakes himself, goes off the track. What a spastic. Max only lost connection with his car for the split second he missed brake timing. You lose a split second, you outbrake yourself by a mile. Max finds connection immediately, feeling the grip of the tires like with his bare hands touching the grass. With almost no traction, he's rotating. Next sector, he goes fastest to make up for the time lost. With the little bit of grip Max had, he felt the car's balance and rotated it back onto the road. The one time out of 2 times I've ever seen Ayrton Senna outbrake himself in a corner. Fujiwara braking drift entry. Senna used the drift to rotate and slow him down enough. Same thing on change of direction. Senna felt the speed and sliding friction coefficient of the tires over speeding into the corner. So he over-rotates to slide the tires, decelerating and rotating enough. In these drivers' mistakes, when they hit cognitive lock and now it's all up to instinct to make the decisions. Their instinct is grounded in feel and connection. This is the stage. Konshin is instinctive. I remember go-karting when I was very young. I took up the challenge to get the fastest lap time in a short amount of time, about 5 minutes I had on the track, pushing flat out from the start to the finish. And in the middle of the time, I can feel something's off. I can feel I'm not driving right because I'm trying to push so hard, but with the speed I'm carrying into the corners, I'm not rotating properly enough and I'm just stressing the front tires especially. I get a small impression of what I should do. But in that moment of such high pressure I was under, I hit cognitive lock. I was practically paralyzed because though I found that I was driving wrong, and I got that impression of what exactly to do, because that impression was straight from the go-karts. I can't remember exactly what was the impression, but I remember getting it. But I couldn't do it, I just wasn't doing it. And it wasn't a direct decision, I'm gonna drive on the wrong technique I've been using so long. In that limited time, taking the impression I got, using it, listening to the car, I was thinking in the short amount of time now to try change my technique, it's gonna be so hard to try recalibrate my driving and adapt it perfectly into the center of apex to carve out the corner on the perfect racing line properly, and so I just didn't do it. My psychological response to fear of trying this new way of driving My fear stopped me from getting a record that was practically in my hands. My reaction time was perfect, it was amazing. My physical strength was perfect. My vision was perfect, but my response to the pressure was not good enough. Carried on stressing my tires on the wrong driving, and only when I got out of the kart, sat down, staring back at the go-karts at the track, thinking about it. All the racing, all that driving played back in my head. And I saw there what I was doing wrong and what the car was screaming at me, telling me, please drive me this way, not that way. But I couldn't do it. In that high pressure, my wrong psychological patterns of being comfortable in the sanitary pond where I'm comfortable driving in this way, I couldn't get out of that pattern.
I only have 5 minutes. I only have 5 minutes. I only have 5 minutes.
Emotional damage!
And the problem is not that I was not good in different techniques. The problem is that the psychological pattern was not Konshin. It wasn't feel, it wasn't connection. If it was like that from the start, I don't care what technique it is. I feel the car. I'm connected. We as one. So in that time, in that era when I was still small, go-karting, I remember when I got the record on that track was when I went for a 30-minute stint. But you know what I started doing? Recalibrating myself, reforming, breaking it down again, and building myself up. I don't train my instinct to learn that technique or be comfortable specifically in this way of driving. I train my instinct to live in one thing, Konshin. When I finally found Konshin, I remember going to this other go-karting place. I know nothing about the track. Feeling the car, just trying to get closer and feel how I should drive this car around the corners. The track's grip is incredibly high, so the hairpins are quite a pain because there's no diff on the cards. I beat the mechanic's best time on that track.
They say you can't train an old dog new tricks. But the problem is not that it's too hard for him to adapt to the new tricks. The problem is that he was taught tricks. If he was originally taught to feel, then when he hears the words fetch after whatever ball is thrown to him, in whatever shape, psi of air, mass, in whatever conditions, the dog through the thin air will feel the momentum of the ball. It will feel the aerodynamics, feeling its trajectory. It will feel the grip with its bare tongue and hold onto the ball. Speed is a measure of distance covered over time. Racing is about getting from the start line to the finish line first. That is covering a distance in the shortest time. That is speed. Speed is the metaphysics of racing. If speed can be infinite, there is no such thing as perfection. You can always find more speed. The true legends of racing are metaphysicians of speed. The higher you go in speed, you find a limit. In Konshin, you find that you can somehow go faster. You surpass the limit and find another limit. There's a greater demand for perfect balance. The margin gets smaller. The demand for even faster, unreal reaction time gets higher. At this point, the metaphysicians find the brick wall they can't break through. Reaction time is their limit. Not because they're not fast enough, but because it is mere reaction. Once they start correcting out of reaction, they've already spun. Lando in his rocket ship walks past. At that level, their rate of feel seems just like Lando Norris. Because only the true believers find absolute Konshin.
That day, I suddenly realized that I was no longer driving it conscious, and I was in a different dimension for me. The circuit for me was a tunnel, which I was just going, and I realized I was well beyond my conscious understanding.
Do you know what this meant? The road for me was like a tunnel. I was in another dimension. Ayrton was in another dimension. This was not a metaphor. Ayrton Senna was driving by zero latency between what the car is doing, his feel of what the car is doing, and his action based on feel. Zero latency. Ayrton Senna was driving in the present. Absolute Konshin. Though in 1988 Monaco, Ayrton Senna didn't have the mental capacity to stay in the present while Ron Dennis was screaming in his ear to slow down. Well, he got cognitive lock and crashed, but that was the most pivotal race of his life. It shaped the rest of his life. He had only one main goal after that. Absolute Konshin.
Martin Brundle said Senna has a sixth sense to feel where the grip is on the track before he turns into the corner. It is a metaphorical explanation because he couldn't comprehend Konshin. The truth is Senna was just like one of us. He wasn't born with the superpower. Konshin is what he became. What he couldn't see in fourth dimension vision, somehow he handled perfectly as if he could. Something slides the rear end. Senna feels it in the present and balances rotation in the perfect angle and rate in the present. This is Konshin.
Ready to dance.
I believed. I worked the pus out of my brain to find this absolute frequency of Konshin. In cognitive lock crashing harder down than I would have just driving in latency. I found my Monaco 1988. It is another dimension, that's not a metaphor. It took all my mental capacity, all my physical sweat and then some. And all of that was just for a few seconds of greatness. But one thing I know, I drove in the present. Time don't slow down for no one. You just transcend to being in sync with your race car, the road and time. Yes you can also find it. If it takes a Marvel driver to find absolute Konshin, whose fault is it that you're not a Marvel driver? Come on petrol heads, this is not just what we do, this is who we are.